which blows my mind. Please consider sharing this video with a friend or family member because Aperiomics, Dr. Johnson's company, is really revolutionizing the way in which illnesses are diagnosed. And I think it could really benefit a lot of people out there just to know what the new science is. Evan, thank you so much for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about you?
I'm a professor at Boston University. I'm an associate professor. Background, I studied, came and did a PhD in biostatistics, both at Harvard as well as at Dana-Farber. Okay. So this company that I started is not even in cancer, it's in infectious diseases. And we're using DNA sequencing there. So essentially we take a sample from a patient, we sequence the DNA, and then we can tell you what microbes are there. And then actually treat the infection. We, like I said, this company is actively applying this test to people. A couple of years ago, we found someone in Northern Virginia who had leprosy, and they had been traveling abroad, had contracted it. We swabbed the sores and were able to detect the bacteria. So our test can detect more than 40,000 pathogens in a single test.
The world of COVID and how do you think that's going to work? How do you think your science could help things like?
Yeah, so COVID is and this is the standard right now. Right now, COVID has kind of thrown us off our game, and the reason why is because a COVID test is so direct, right? And this is what everybody does, is that you look for a very specific microbe. And so the PCR test essentially set up primers that can detect strings of DNA that's very specific to COVID. And then they amplify that out, and then they measure it, and they said, oh yes, we found COVID DNA or RNA in your system. You clearly have that bug. What we do is, instead of amplifying one thing, we just take it all and we look at everything that's there. So we could detect COVID in there. It's just we can't do it that cheaply, right? If you're looking for one thing, that's a cheap test. But for a few $100s more than you're paying for your COVID test, we could test for more than 40,000 things in one single test. If we're taking the DNA and we're matching that to a database of 40,000 things, we say exactly what's in it. So it's not just COVID; everything else is there.
So you could have strep, you could have COVID, you could have like 10 different things. You could have leprosy. I mean, obviously, how
right.
would they ever? They wouldn't be looking for that.
They wouldn't be looking for it. Like there was another case too, a woman from West Virginia. We took her sample from her blood, sequenced the DNA. She had chronic Lyme disease, and it had been many years. Well, when we sequenced the DNA, it wasn't chronic Lyme. Turns out she had an undiagnosed extrapulmonary TB infection. So it's TB, tuberculosis, as opposed to, it wasn't chronic Lyme. And so she was getting the wrong treatment for 20 years. And they're trying to figure out this thing. And it turns out that it was TB. You just wouldn't think that. The thing is, most chronic Lyme, if they're calling it chronic Lyme, most chronic Lyme is not chronic Lyme, it's something else. Aperiomics aperio is Latin for to reveal or to discover. And then omics is like this technology, genomics and proteomics. So we were highlighted on the Today Show like last year. And what happened is we were working with a young girl. She was a 3-year-old girl, had a urinary tract infection that they couldn't find, and the standard UTI panel was not hitting her. They couldn't discover what it was. But it turns out she did have a urinary tract infection. It was just something that was just not common. And so we sequenced urine from this young child.
If a doctor, if he wanted to, if he didn't know what was wrong with someone, he could take their blood and send it to your place, and you would sequence it and just find out anything and everything that might possibly match to known diseases. Is that my understanding?
Exactly what they'll do. And then what we'll do is if he were to he calls the company, they'll send him a sample collection kit, because we can take 8 or 10 different types of samples. So we can take blood or urine or a swab or a tissue sample or whatever sample you want to send. they'll send the physician a kit. So, for example, if it's blood that they need to sample, we'll send them a kit with instructions on how to take the sample. Essentially, they'll take the blood and put it in the kit, drop it in, FedEx it, and then we'll take it and process it from there.
Shooting in the dark on so many therapies,
Right.
This is so exciting, Evan. Oh my goodness.
We ended up going to our pediatrician and urgent care for about 6 or 7 visits, and everything was coming back normal and clear. It was tough to see Eliana in pain and not be able to help her.
Desperate, Mindy, like most parents, turned to the internet and found Virginia-based Aperiomics, a biotechnology company that says they can help solve medical mysteries.
We were very, very frustrated, upset, and just looking for answers.
We know that there are millions of people living with chronic infections, and the current system can't identify those. The tests simply don't exist.
So what makes Aperiomics different? They say their exclusive medical database that can identify thousands of otherwise undetected pathogens from one DNA sample.
Instead of looking for one thing at a time, we're looking for everything that's known at a time. So we screen every sample for over 37,000 possibilities.
The company insists they don't diagnose or treat patients directly. Rather, with Eliana's test results, her own doctors were able to treat her specific strain of infection. And within a month, her symptoms were completely gone.
I assumed that a standard UTI culture would cover everything that could cause a UTI. And I've since learned that's just not the case.
Really and truly, if we are in a society where we're thinking about, COVID and things that might be coming down the line, your field is the next Microsoft.
And so
Thank you for being with us today. Please like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications on new content. Appreciate you.